Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into a book today that's helped a ton of people find peace and happiness. It's called The Power of Now.
By Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like you're kind of missing out on life because you're stuck in your head,
Oh, all the time.
rehashing the past or stressing about the future?
Yeah.
That's what Tolle is all about. He wants to help you escape that mental time warp and tap into the power of right now, the present moment,
The now.
the now.
Uh,
We're going to unpack some really interesting ideas today, like the illusion of time, the sneaky power of the ego, and even this mysterious thing
it's a weird one.
called the pain body.
Yeah.
So buckle up.
It's really fascinating how Tolle can take this idea of enlightenment, which sounds
Super out there?
very esoteric, and make it feel really practical and relevant to just like everyday life.
Totally. He's basically saying that true peace and happiness, they can only exist right now,
Right.
in this very moment.
Not yesterday, not tomorrow.
Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not.
No.
I don't know about you, but I am constantly
Oh, sing.
catching myself replaying old conversations in my head
All the time.
or freaking out about stuff that hasn't even happened yet.
Oh, yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like our minds are just hardwired for time travel.
Yeah,
And we end up kind of missing out on everything that's happening right in front of us.
totally.
Tolle just nails it when he says that this mental disorientation is a huge source of stress and unhappiness for us.
So if we're always stuck in the past or future, are we even really living?
Good question.
And Tolle's answer
Big fat no.
is a big fat NO. And that's where the power of now comes in.
Yeah.
It's like a guidebook for breaking free from this mental prison and finally experiencing the freedom and joy that comes with being totally present.
One of the coolest things about this book is how Tolle can break down these complex spiritual concepts in a way that anyone can understand.
Yeah.
He uses these vivid analogies and relatable examples that just make these ideas click.
Totally. Like, for instance,
Like his concept of the ego.
okay, yeah, the ego. I've heard that term thrown around a lot, but I don't really know. Like, what is it exactly?
Okay. So think of the ego as this kind of false sense of self that we create based on our thoughts and emotions and past experiences.
Hmm.
It's that voice in your head that's constantly judging, comparing, worrying.
Oh, yeah.
That's the part of you that says, I'm not good enough, or I need to achieve this in order to be happy.
So it's not our true selves. It's like this mask that we wear.
Exactly. It's like this character that we've created
Wow.
that we think is who we are.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, the ego absolutely loves to keep us distracted from the present moment.
Really?
It thrives on replaying past regrets and fueling future anxieties because that's where it feels powerful.
Whoa, that's a real mind bender.
Hmm.
So how do we escape this ego trap? How do we, like, stop letting it run the show?
Tully's advice is to just start by simply observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
So just noticing them.
You notice them without getting swept away by them. Imagine your thoughts are like cars passing by on a busy street.
Okay.
You see them, you acknowledge them,
Right.
but you don't have to hop in every single one and go for a ride.
I love that analogy.
It's about creating some distance
Yeah.
between ourselves and our thoughts.
Like, oh, there's that thought again. Interesting.
Exactly. And the more we practice this, the less power our thoughts have over us.
Hmm.
We start to realize that we are not our thoughts.
Wow.
We are the awareness that's observing them.
Okay, this is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? Like, how do we become that observer? Tolle talks about mindfulness and meditation as, like, key tools, right?
He does, yeah. They're super helpful for training your mind to stay present and detach from the constant chatter of the ego.
Okay, now for something really intriguing,
Yeah.
Tolle also talks about this thing called the pain body. What in the world is that?
Yes, the pain body. It's one of those concepts that can feel a little unsettling at first,
Yeah, sounds kind of scary.
but it's so powerful once you understand it. Imagine it as this invisible backpack that you're carrying around, filled with all the emotional pain that you've accumulated throughout your life. It's the leftover residue of past hurts and traumas and disappointments.
Oh, wow.
And the crazy part is, it can get triggered in the present moment, causing us to react in ways that don't serve us.
So it's like emotional baggage that can suddenly explode without warning.
Pretty much, yeah. It might be an old heartbreak or a childhood trauma or even just years of accumulated stress.
Right.
The pain body holds on to these experiences and can unleash them at any moment,
Oh, wow.
often without us even realizing it's happening.
So you might, like, snap at someone or
Yeah.
feel this sudden wave of sadness
Totally.
or get triggered by a totally insignificant event.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense. So how do we deal with this pain body if it's always lurking within us, waiting to pounce? Do we just ignore it and hope it goes away?
Ignoring it doesn't work. The key is to learn to recognize it when it shows up
Okay.
and to observe it without getting completely consumed by it.
Tolle compares it to watching a storm cloud pass by.
Okay.
You see it, you feel its power,
Right.
but you know it will eventually move on.
So it's about acknowledging the pain without letting it, take over.
Yes. Don't try to fight it or push it away. Just observe it with a sense of curiosity
Okay.
and detachment. The more you practice this, the less power the pain body will have over you.
All this talk about the ego and the pain body is making me realize just how much our thoughts can impact our well-being. Tolle seems to emphasize the importance of, gaining freedom from our thoughts, right?
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's not about silencing the mind completely or becoming some kind of a emotionless robot.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we are not our thoughts. They're just fleeting mental events, like bubbles popping in and out of existence.
So instead of getting caught up in every thought that pops into our heads, we should learn to just observe them with some detachment.
Exactly. Tolle uses the analogy of watching a movie screen.
The thoughts are just images flickering across the screen. We can watch them, but we don't need to engage with every scene or let them dictate our emotions.
That's such a helpful image.
Yeah.
So we can actually choose which thoughts we want to engage with and which ones we can just let float on by.
Precisely. And this ability to choose this is where we find true freedom and power.
Wow.
Tolle argues that our true potential lies not in the endless chatter of the mind, but in the stillness and awareness of the present moment.
This is blowing my mind. It's like he's giving us permission to let go of all the mental burdens we carry around and finally experience the peace and joy that's always available to us.
He is. And that brings us to another key concept in the book that's closely tied to the power of the present moment. The idea of acceptance.
Okay, so how does acceptance fit into all of this?
So Tolle believes that accepting what is, even if it's challenging or unpleasant, is crucial for finding inner peace.
Okay.
He argues that resistance to reality is what creates suffering.
So if you're constantly fighting against what's happening,
We're only adding to our own stress.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like getting stuck in traffic and just fuming about it.
Right.
The traffic is a reality that you can't change in that moment.
Right. Yeah.
Accepting it allows you to respond more calmly
Okay.
and rationally.
So you might choose to, listen to your favorite music
Exactly.
or enjoy the scenery instead of letting the situation ruin your mood.
It's a great example.
Yeah. It's about choosing our battles, right? Sometimes it's better to just let things be.
Exactly. And acceptance doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to a bad situation.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation and then choosing how to respond from a place of peace rather than resistance.
This whole idea acceptance is incredibly empowering. It's like we're taking back control of our experience by choosing how we want to respond to life's challenges.
Precisely. And it all ties back to the power of the present moment.
Right.
When we're fully present,
Yeah.
we're better equipped to accept whatever arises without getting swept away by our emotional reactions. This is all making so much sense. I love how Tolle connects these seemingly complex spiritual concepts to everyday experiences.
He's a master at doing that. And he doesn't just tell us what to think. He provides practical tools for putting these ideas into action.
I like that.
One of those tools is using our bodies as a gateway to the present moment.
That's an interesting concept. How can our bodies help us stay present? It seems like they'd be more of a distraction.
Well, think about it. Our bodies are always in the present moment. They can't be anywhere else.
Right.
Tolle suggests focusing on simple things like our breath or the sensations in our bodies as a way to anchor ourselves in the now.
Okay.
Let's try a quick exercise together just to give you a taste of what this feels like.
Okay, I'm game. I could use a little grounding right now.
So close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Notice the feeling of the air entering and leaving your body.
Okay.
Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Notice any sensations in your hands or feet.
Wow, that's amazing. Just focusing on my breath for a few seconds brought me right into the present moment.
Yeah.
It's like all the mental chatter just faded away.
Exactly. That's the power of bringing our awareness into our bodies.
Wow.
It's a direct path to the now.
It's incredible how something so simple can be so effective. It's like a mini vacation for my mind.
And the best part is you can do it anytime, anywhere.
Right.
It's a tool you always have with you.
I'm definitely going to be using that one. It's all really inspiring, but I have to admit, the idea of surrendering to life's flow, like Tolle suggests, it's a little intimidating.
I understand. It can sound like giving up, but it's actually the opposite.
So what does surrendering actually mean in this context? Is it about letting go of all our goals and ambitions?
It's about releasing resistance to what is.
Okay.
It's about letting go of the need to control every outcome and trusting that life will unfold as it should.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
It's about accepting what we can't change and focusing on what we can.
Yes. Tolle uses this beautiful analogy of a leaf floating on a river.
Okay.
If the leaf fights against the current, it creates a lot of struggle and turmoil.
Right.
But if it surrenders to the flow of the river, it experiences a much smoother, more effortless journey.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It really captures the essence of surrender.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that surrender isn't a one-time event.
Okay.
It's a continuous practice of letting go, trusting, and allowing life to unfold naturally.
So it's about embracing the journey even when it gets a little bumpy.
Exactly. And this brings us to the final concept we'll cover today, the role of relationships.
Okay, I'm curious to hear Tolle's perspective on relationships.
Tolle sees relationships as incredible mirrors for our own growth and healing. They reflect back to us our own patterns, our beliefs, and often our pain bodies.
So our relationships can actually trigger our pain bodies.
They can, yeah, especially if we're unconscious of our own patterns and triggers. But Tolle believes that relationships can also be powerful catalysts for transformation.
How so?
By engaging in conscious relationships, those built on presence and mutual respect,
Okay.
we can support each other's growth and healing. When both partners are committed to being present and working through challenges together, the relationship can become a profound space for personal and spiritual evolution.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah,
Relationships can be both challenging and incredibly rewarding.
absolutely. And Tolle reminds us that relationships are not about finding someone to complete us.
Right.
They're about two whole individuals coming together to support each other's journeys.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into the power of now so far.
It really is a rich and transformative book.
Tolle's ideas are so thought-provoking, and I can totally see how they can have a profound impact on people's lives.
I agree.
It's a book that invites us to slow down, pay attention, and discover the peace that exists within us at this very moment.
I love that.
And speaking of this moment, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Let's take a moment to let all of this sink in, and we'll be right back to continue our exploration of the power of now. Okay, we're back, and ready to dive even deeper into the power of now. We've talked about a lot of concepts, but I'm really interested to hear about the practical side of Tolle's teachings.
Right.
Like, what can we actually do to cultivate this present moment awareness he's always talking about? Does he offer any specific, techniques or exercises?
He does. Tolle provides a ton of practical guidance throughout the book.
Okay.
And one of the most fundamental practices he recommends is observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
Right, we touched on that earlier with the car analogy, noticing the thoughts without hopping in for a ride.
Yeah.
But how do we actually make that happen? It still feels kind of abstract to me.
It definitely takes practice, but it's something anyone can do.
Okay.
So imagine you're sitting by a river, watching the water flow by. Your thoughts and emotions are like the currents in that river, constantly moving and changing.
Right.
Instead of getting caught in those currents, you simply observe them from the bank.
Okay.
You might notice, oh, there's a thought about that deadline coming up, or here comes a wave of anxiety about that presentation.
So we're not trying to, stop the thoughts or emotions altogether.
Nope. It's more about creating space between ourselves and those mental events.
Okay.
We're simply acknowledging their presence without getting swept away by them.
So how can we cultivate that observer perspective?
One powerful practice is to just carve out a few minutes each day for quiet reflection.
Okay.
Find a comfortable spot, close your eyes, and simply turn your attention inward.
Okay.
Notice your breath, the sensations in your body, and the thoughts that drift through your mind.
So it's like creating a mental sanctuary where we can just be present with ourselves without any distractions.
Exactly. And as you practice this, you'll start to notice that you have a choice in how you respond to your thoughts and emotions. You don't have to be a slave to them. You can choose to engage with them, or you can simply let them pass by like clouds in the sky.
That feels incredibly empowering. It's like taking back control of our inner world.
It is.
Are there any other practices Tolle recommends for, like, strengthening this present moment awareness?
He's a huge advocate for regular meditation and mindfulness.
Okay, those are terms I hear all the time, but I'm not always sure what they actually mean.
Right.
What does Tolle say about them?
He sees meditation as a way to cultivate a state of focused awareness.
Okay.
It's not about emptying the mind or stopping all thoughts. It's about observing thoughts and emotions without getting carried away by them.
So it's kind of like that river analogy we were just talking about.
Exactly. It's about becoming the observer, the witness to your inner experience.
Hmm.
And mindfulness is about bringing that same quality of awareness to everyday activities.
So instead of just going through the motions on autopilot,
Mm.
we're really paying attention to what we're doing and experiencing in each moment.
Exactly. Whether you're washing the dishes, eating a meal, or having a conversation, you can practice mindfulness by bringing your full attention to that activity.
So if I'm like feeling stressed out about a million things while I'm doing the dishes,
Yeah.
mindfulness would be about like bringing my awareness to the feel of the warm water on my hands,
Yeah.
the smell of the soap, the sound of the dishes clinking.
Yes. You're bringing your senses alive and fully experiencing that moment.
Hmm.
It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
I love that. It's like turning everyday tasks into like mini meditations.
Yeah. And the more you practice mindfulness, the
Mm.
more you'll start to appreciate the richness and beauty of life, even in the simplest moments.
This is so cool. It's like Toll is giving us a whole new way of experiencing the world.
He is.
What other like techniques does he offer?
He also encourages us to question the validity of our thoughts.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about the ego's love for creating dramas and stories?
Oh, yeah. The ego is a master storyteller.
He-
Always spinning tales of, like, what if and if only.
Exactly. So Tolle suggests asking yourself 3 simple questions.
Okay.
Whenever a thought arises that's causing you stress or suffering,
Okay.
is this thought true?
Hmm.
Is it helpful?
Right.
Is it deceiving me?
Wow, those are powerful questions.
Yeah,
I can see how that could really shift our perspective.
it can.
It's about, like, challenging those negative thought patterns that keep us stuck in the past or worried about the future.
Exactly.
So instead of blindly believing every thought that pops into our heads,
Yeah.
we can start to question their validity and choose thoughts that empower us and support our well-being.
Yes. And that brings us back to the power of choice. We always have a choice in how we respond to our thoughts and experiences.
This is all so incredibly valuable. Tolby provides such practical and insightful guidance for transforming our lives from the inside out.
Yeah,
It's like he's giving us a roadmap to inner peace and happiness.
he is. And it's important to remember that this is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about making small shifts in our awareness and behavior over time.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment overnight.
Not at all. It's about practicing presence day by day, moment by moment.
That feels much more attainable and encouraging.
Yeah,
It's about progress, not perfection.
exactly. And the beauty of it is that even small steps in the right direction can have a ripple effect on our well-being.
I'm feeling so inspired to put all of this into practice. Tolle's message of finding peace and happiness in the present moment is so powerful and relevant to like our modern lives.
It is.
It's like an antidote to the constant stress and overwhelm that we all experience.
In a world that's constantly bombarding us with distractions and demands,
Right.
Tolle's teachings offer a path to inner peace and freedom.
And they remind us that true happiness isn't something we find outside of ourselves,
Right.
like in possessions or achievements or other people.
Yeah.
It's something we cultivate within.
Exactly. It's about tapping into the power of the present moment and realizing that everything we need is already here.
I love that. This has been such a profound and insightful deep dive into the power of now.
It has. And before we wrap up, I want to emphasize that this is just a taste of the wisdom that Tolle offers in his book.
Right.
I highly encourage you to explore it further
Yeah.
and discover the depth and transformative power of his teachings.
I second that. The Power of Now is definitely a book that can change your life if you're open to its message.
That is, yeah.
It's a book you can keep coming back to again and again, always finding new insights and inspiration.
It's a timeless classic for a reason.
Absolutely. And speaking of timeless classics, we're going to take a quick break and be right back to wrap up our deep dive into the power of now with some key takeaways and a final thought-provoking question. All right, we're back. I'm feeling really inspired after all that. But before we wrap up this deep dive into the power of now, let's do a super quick recap. If someone is just starting out with Tolle, What are the most important things to remember?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is that power of mindfulness. Whether you're diving into like formal meditation or simply bringing more awareness to everyday tasks,
Right.
mindfulness is like a key that unlocks the present moment.
So instead of rushing through life on autopilot,
Yeah,
we can actually choose to, savor each experience.
totally.
Even something as simple as washing the dishes.
Exactly. Pay attention to the way the water feels on your hands, the smell of the soap,
Mm,
the sound of the water.
yeah.
Engage your senses. It's about slowing down and truly experiencing life as it unfolds.
Right.
Tully would say you're shifting from a state of doing to a state of being.
Okay, that makes sense. What else should we keep in mind?
Remember how we talked about the ego and its sneaky way of keeping us trapped in the past or future?
Oh, yeah?
It's like a master illusionist, constantly distracting us from the beauty of the present moment.
Oh, yeah. The ego's a real trickster.
So another key takeaway is to become aware of your thoughts without judgment.
Okay.
Notice when your mind starts spiraling into worry or regret, and gently guide your attention back to the present. It's like training a puppy.
Okay.
With patience and practice, you can teach your mind to stay focused on what truly matters.
So we're not trying to silence our thoughts completely, just learning to observe them with a little more distance.
You got it. You can even ask yourself those 3 powerful questions Tolle suggests.
Right.
Is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it serving me?
Yeah.
You might be surprised at how many of our thoughts are actually just recycled stories and limiting beliefs that don't serve us at all.
It's about choosing which thoughts we want to give our energy to.
Absolutely. You always have a choice.
Okay, what else can we do to bring more of that, power of now magic, into our lives?
Tolle talks a lot about acceptance, which can be tough, I know, when we're faced with challenging situations.
Yeah.
But he reminds us that resistance is actually what creates suffering. When we can surrender to what is, we open ourselves up to peace and possibility.
So it's about letting go of the need to control every outcome
Yeah.
and trusting that life will unfold as it should.
Exactly. It's like that leaf floating on the river. When we stop fighting the current, we can relax into the flow of life and experience a much smoother journey.
I love that analogy. Surrender doesn't have to be a defeat. It can actually be a doorway to freedom.
Right on. And remember, you always have access to that incredible tool. Your breath.
Right.
Whenever you feel overwhelmed or lost in thought, just take a few deep, conscious breaths. It's like hitting the reset button on your nervous system and instantly bringing yourself back to the present moment.
It's amazing how such a simple thing can be so powerful. We literally have the power to breathe our way back to peace.
We do.
And lastly, remember the importance of conscious relationships.
Yeah.
Tolle reminds us that our connections with others can be incredible mirrors for our own growth and healing.
They can.
Approach your relationships with presence and intention, and choose to surround yourself with people who support your journey and inspire you to become your best self.
Such a beautiful reminder.
I'm feeling so grateful for this conversation and for all the wisdom Eckhart Tolle has shared with the world.
Me too.
The power of now is truly a gift.
It is.
If you're feeling inspired to explore Tolle's work further, I highly recommend picking up a copy of The Power of Now.
It's a good one.
It's a book that can really change your perspective and transform your life.
And you know what would really help us keep these insightful deep dives coming?
What's that?
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like and follow our podcast.
Yes, your support means the world to us,
It does.
and it helps us reach more people who are eager to learn and grow.
We love connecting with you all and sharing these deep dives into life's biggest questions.
And on that note, I'll leave you with a thought-provoking question inspired by the power of now, but not directly addressed in the book.
Oh, I like this.
If time is truly an illusion, as Tolle suggests, what does that mean for our understanding of free will? Something to ponder as you go about your day, living fully in the power of now. Until next time, everyone, keep diving deep.